Jumping into chaotic group conversations can be really challenging, especially if you're an introvert or especially if you're just used to being ignored in conversations. But there are some techniques that will help make this process a lot easier for you. Some are verbal techniques, some are non-verbal techniques. The first one is to use a hand gesture. Hand gestures are really effective to indicate in conversations that you have something to say. I recommend using the simple raised hand just like this, or a pointed finger. Either of these are really effective because they visually grab people's attention. The movement of your hand, either raising it or the pointed finger, will draw people's attention and eyes to you, making it much easier for you to then jump into the conversation. The problem many people have when they find it difficult to jump into chaotic group conversation is because they're not visible. They're often ignored in conversations. So in order to be able to get some talking space in that chaotic conversation, you need to make yourself more visible. And a really effective way of making yourself more visible is to use a hand gesture to actually draw people's eyes toward you. It indicates to everyone in the group that you have something to say. And when you use this, you will often see people's heads immediately turn toward you. But remember, you want to be bold with your gestures, reasonably bold anyway, not too bold, but reasonably bold. If you make small gestures close to you like this or like this, people probably won't notice. They won't be visually drawn to you. So your gestures need to be big enough so people actually notice. Next, you can aim to get physical proximity. Now, what do I mean by physical proximity? You need to physically put yourself in the middle of the conversation. Now, I know what you're thinking. I don't mean you need to physically stand in the middle of the circle if everyone is talking in a group. You don't need to stand physically in the middle of the circle. But what I do want you to do is to stand so you're more included in the conversation. Move from outside the group to inside the group. You see, when you are introverted, when you're on the shy side, when you're used to being ignored in conversations, you might develop the behavior of not physically putting yourself in the conversation. You might stand slightly outside of the group. You might not make eye contact with anyone in the group. You might slightly angle your body away from the group in the hope that nobody will talk to you or invite you into the conversation. These body language gestures, when you use them, when you're introverted, they will keep you safe, right? Because it will deter people from starting to talk to you, but they will also keep you invisible in conversations, and they will also make it very difficult for you to jump into the conversation when you have something to say. Like I said before, in order to jump into a conversation, you need to make yourself more visible so people notice you and so they will listen to you. If you are standing in a conversation in a group of people, I recommend you take a small step forward so you're more in the group rather than outside the group. If you're sitting at a meeting table and you want to be more included in the group, I want to recommend that you make good eye contact with people in the group, make eye contact specifically with the main speaker of the group, or physically sit close to the main speaker of the group as well. All of these things will help you be more visible so you can jump into chaotic group conversations. If you like the tips that I've shared so far, then hit the like button below, subscribe to my channel for more videos like this every week, and let's continue on. I've already mentioned the importance of eye contact, but this is a really effective way to make yourself more visible so you can effectively jump into group conversations and not be ignored. When you look people in the eye, it tells them that you are interested in what they're saying and that you're confident as well. When you refuse to look people in the eye, when you avoid eye contact, it tells people that you don't care about the conversation, you're not interested in what they're saying, and that you don't have any confidence in yourself. Eye contact is an extremely effective way to not be ignored in conversations. I recommend you monitor how much eye contact you currently use and think of how you can improve your eye contact and use more eye contact in your conversations. I often get asked the question when it comes to eye contact, where do you look? Well, I recommend you imagine an inverted triangle on your face that goes from your eyebrows to your nose. In this triangle, within this area, this is the area that you want to look on the other person's face. And for more body language tips when it comes to conversations, then look at the link for the video in the description below. Now we're moving on to verbal strategies to help you jump into chaotic group conversations. And the first verbal strategy is to respond and continue. This is one of my favorite ways to slide into group conversations. And this is where you respond to what someone has said and use that as an opportunity to grab your talking space, to claim your talking space, so then you can continue with your own thoughts. So a lot of the time when people have difficulty jumping into chaotic group conversations, they don't know what to say, right? But this respond and continue technique is a very effective one that you should use. Here's an example. Jonathan said he had to go through 10 different reports to write up the product analysis, and it took him 2 weeks to write up. When he explains this to the group, you could immediately jump in and say, that sounds really challenging. I had a similar experience when I did the product analysis last quarter. I found that, and then you continue on with your own experience or what you want to say in the meeting. Essentially, what you're doing with this technique is you are hooking onto what someone has just said in the meeting. You are hooking onto that. You're using that as leverage to claim your talking space and then to continue on with what you have to say. Responding and continuing on with what you have to say, it also shows interest. It is a very effective verbal technique to use to help you jump into chaotic group conversations. The harder verbal technique to jump into chaotic group conversations is to simply interrupt people. Yes, it takes courage, it takes skill, but the more often you do it, the easier it will get. You may need to raise the volume of your voice as you start to interrupt people. You may need to use the body language gestures that I shared with you in this video to help you interrupt people as well. And you will absolutely need to use some kind of verbal phrase like, I'd like to add that, Jonathan, I want to jump in here and say, or the bold option, excuse me to interrupt, but I have something I'd like to say. And then in all of these examples, you can simply continue on with what you want to say. Interrupting people is really difficult, I know that, but it is a very effective way to claim your talking space and to successfully jump into a chaotic group conversation. And when you interrupt people, you will rarely be ignored. Yes, these phrases and all the tips that I shared with you in this video, they take courage, but you know what? You have the right to claim your talking space. What you have to say is important. What you have to say is interesting. What you have to say matters. People need to hear what you have to say. Don't hide your genius or your brilliance by letting people interrupt you in meetings or by letting people talk over you in meetings. I want you to claim your talking space. I want you to be confident. I want you to be bold about this. And I hope that the tips I shared with you will help you claim your talking space in chaotic group conversations. If you did like what you learned, don't forget to hit the like button below, subscribe to my channel for more videos like this every week. And if you have a problem of people interrupting you all the time in meetings and you want them to stop, then you need to watch this video right here where I will go through a strategy in how you can stop people from interrupting you in meetings. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.